Hello, today we're going to be talking about free string libraries. Now, strings are probably the most sought after sample library. It's the one that there's such an abundance of. There's so many to choose from. You just look at any sample library company that sells samples, they'll have 101 different string libraries for 101 different situations, and it can be really hard to choose from which one you actually want to use. But we're not going to talk about paid stuff. We are going to be talking about free stuff, and there is some awesome and great stuff out there that you should really play with before you even bother thinking about buying stuff. And specifically, I'm going to just go through quickly the places where I've got these samples from. There's also going to be links in the description for all these different websites, so you can download them yourself and have a play with them. Firstly, Decent Sampler. Great place, constantly adding stuff. I think this is a new one. I don't know how new. I haven't been on this website for a while, I must admit. So this is definitely one we're going to be trying out. It's strings. That's the subject of this video. And we have a lot to actually look at, a lot to get through. So let's fly through them. So of course, Decent Sampler, looking at some stuff from there. What's nice is it's a free sampler. In this video, I've stayed away from free contact instruments because that requires you buying contact, which would highly recommend because you can get so much free stuff for it once you spend that £100-200 on contact itself. Next, Sign Factory, we're specifically looking at Helix, seeing if it's any good or not. It's okay. Spoiler alert. Next, we're going to be looking at Labs. There's lots of different string libraries for Labs, so we're probably going to be spending a little bit of time just working our way through a couple of different ones. I know there was a new one out not so long ago. It's cello something, and it's amazing. A couple of little problems I have with it, but we'll go into that. Next, I just thought I'd give a shout out again to Piano Book. Just looking, there's a whole string section. Click on sample packs, strings. Of course, yeah, you've got guitars and other bits and bobs, but there's lots of different string samples on here. I've picked one, which I like. It's a load of shorts because I felt we were lacking in shorts in some of the libraries. So we will be looking at one of those. But again, scroll through here. Do note, if you don't have contact, that's that little symbol there. You won't be able to use a lot of these because it requires you having contact. Another great reason to buy it. But of course, with the DS symbol, Decent Sampler, Decent Sampler is free to download, and you can load samples onto that. So careful of that. Oh, of course, and Apple as well for the sampler on Apple. Which, yeah, specifically this is the one we're looking at, the NFO alternate chamber strings shorts when it comes to that. And of course, it wouldn't be a video that I don't talk about Logic's own samples. So alongside that, we're talking about the studio strings and the actual orchestral strings, which are in the orchestral section on Logic. And what would a video be without me talking about BBC Discover again? So we're going to throw that in the mix. So we got loads and loads of different string samples. Let's have a play around. Let's have a listen to each one, see which one's best. Again, I think a lot of this will really depend on your project, but let's really just jump in, and we're going to do Logic's stuff last because I feel it's overused. Same with Discover. Let's move that down in the list so at least we can play with everything else first. So firstly, I'm going to start with Decent Sampler, and we're going to start by looking at the one I just talked about, actually. This one, the NFO alternate chamber string shorts. So there are two presets. There's keys and shorts. Let's start with the shorts and see what happens. And now we can instantly see we have 4 different mic positions and lots of room: attack, decay, sustain, releases, cutoffs. Yeah, reverb, lots to have a play with, but let's just see what it comes up normally. We got some round robins there. And it's not a singular instrument, you have a full orchestra. Nice double bass there. Very beautifully sampled. And actually quite a nice room, or reverb at least. Let's listen to these shorts by themselves. We get rid of that. Needs a bit more release, really. so you don't get that cut off at the end. I find that with a lot of things, especially with Logic as well. If you get those shorts cutting off, just add a bit of release. So that's your room. Stereo pair. Probably have a nice stereo field here. And let's move on to the outriggers. Not gonna lie, not noticing too much difference between these different microphones. I'm not noticing any difference between these. Is that just me? Let's turn these all on again, without the reverb at least. Of course it's going to be loud with all the mics on, but that's a beautiful sound if I'm honest. Let's see what happens when we change it to keys, if we get anything different. Oh, so we do have longs. Well, not quite longs. I'd want a bit of attack on that. A little less attack, so you can really mess with the envelope to get the sound you want, but beautifully sampled. Velocity sensitive. I'm going to change it right back just to see if there's much velocity sensitive with the shorts. Right, we definitely have some dynamic layers there, but as shorts go, a beautiful set and a beautiful reverb. So that is our first one. Let's keep moving on. So that's our shorts. We've looked at those. Box, violin, sustains. And we have dynamics, tone, and reverb to mess with. Let's take the reverb off. Very, I think that'll add a bit of low end. Very tinny, but it is a violin box, so it's a bit more of a... Not your traditional violin, so let's see what happens with the mod wheels used. So a nice bit of mod wheel there. Not your traditional violin, but it's something out of the box. That's interesting. Let's look at this VT violin. And there's a different sort. So this is more of a textured thing. These are microphones. These, of course, attack, decay, sustain, release. I had a mess with these already. They're actually kind of fun. And if you want to create some lovely string textures, this is kind of perfect, actually. Lovely stereo field. And there is a paid version of this as well. It's like 30 quid. Let's look at some of the other presets actually on that. Another one there. So, as I said, this really is more of a texture. So that's that. Let's move swiftly on to Slinky. Let's just go with the standard patch. So some nice long samples there. Velocity sensitive. So more your solo violin as such. It definitely has a character to it. Be careful with the velocities there. But if that's the sound you're looking for, it does give you something unique and different. All these ones, especially when you go through Piano Book and Decent Sampler, have some very unique characters. And as I said, they can be hit and miss with the quality, but there's some beautiful stuff out there. And now that's the funky stuff. Let's move more on to your traditional bits and bobs, starting with Labs. There is lots and lots to choose from when it comes to Labs. Just clicking on strings, you've got the collection of frozen strings, synth strings, strings, there's strings 2 as well, and amplified cello quartet, which is more of a horror-y aspect thing. We'll go through cello moods. This is the new stuff, at least when I was recording this video. And my little issue is they are within these keys here. Saying that, I do play a lot in D. And so as long as you stick to these keys, these can be a bit of fun and a bit unpredictable, but more of a texture thing, I think, as well. We're going to ignore the auto harp and dulcimer because we are specifically looking at strings. I think a good place to start is actually just with the actual strings themselves. So ensemble, I think these are longs. And I hope there's an attack. Nope, there's just a release. Maybe if I... There we go. So there's no velocity control. It's just using the CC11. It can be hard not getting that clicky sound. I'm really trying, and doing a solo with that is not the best. So ensemble long. Okay, there we go. That's much better. So that's a doable legato. It's just longs, it's not a specifically a legato patch, but compared to the ensemble I was getting that clicky sound. The long, it's simply a lot more doable, and for your longs, those passages where you want almost a solo violin, perfect alternative for something free. Now these are our shorts. Nice small ensemble, beautiful stereo field. I think it sounds like there's a round robins there. Nice little sound. Nice little intimate place. Chamber sort of string size. There's a little reverb there as well. Nice, sharp and short. And then when we come to strings 2, this is where we get our pizzicatos, I believe, and bar top pits. And some swells. Let's just go straight into the pits. So you can see how that fade affects it. But some really beautifully recorded pizzas, very realistic, very much there. And if you're wanting to compose a nice small ensemble piece, really between these two string patches you could create quite a nice piece if you get creative. Of course we then have our buttock bits. Almost called like swells. There's a lot of release on that. There we go. Beautiful sounds, but just between those 6 patches, you've got a lot. And that's why I kind of started with those. Those are your bread and butter, especially with everything we've kind of talked about. Yeah, you've got that nice big orchestral shorts we had with a decent sampler. But really, your bread and butter starts here with your labs when it comes to strings. Now, we are going to move through some of these. We're not going to go through every single one of them. Of course, they're free to download. I'll give links so you can download them yourself and mess with them. But some of the textures you can get with these sounds. Are beautiful and amazing, and you can spend hours just messing around with these. And so feel free to have a go at a lot of these. Some of my favourite actually, these harmonic birdsong ones. You could do some really haunting melodies with these. As I said earlier, this one's more of a horror-y one. It's just to show you what I mean. And the mod wheel kind of moves between the raw and that gritty texture that you get from the amplifier. Now these are absolutely beautiful cello moods. Let's do a D minor. One note does so much. A lot of variation within it, and you can hear the bow coming off and on. And you can hear the changes in notes, but you can probably see I'm not actually moving, I'm holding a chord. So if I just hold a simple D minor chord, you can see there at the bottom, I was pressing 4 notes the whole time. I didn't move. I added that little bass note there eventually, but the actual slipping between notes, and it all shifts within D minor, and absolutely gorgeous and realistic textures. And again, this is free. But you got to be careful, and it almost feels like a one-trick sort of pony with these. And those are quite consistent throughout. Of course, there's different versions: melancholy, odd, tension, wistfulness. I'll let you mess around, but the quality of those are gorgeous. Now we're going to move swiftly on. As I said, there's a lot to look at. The Helix, Orchestral Tools, free stuff. And that we got it preloaded. Now it's a whole string ensemble. Now we have spiccatos and sustains. We'll start with the spiccatos. Beautiful, great room. We don't have anything but the full mix. And what's nice is we can actually see, 6 dynamic layers and 6 round robins. Hard to go wrong with that. With 6 dynamic layers and 6 round robins, there's so much there. you are stuck with this room. But listen to that, and we'll compare that instantly with BBC Discover, which I think is a really good side-by-side, at least for the shorts aspect, to see, well, which do you prefer? So we're on BBC Discover now, on their spiccatos. Noted, Helix is an ensemble, and you'll have that instant gratification of just, while if you take the time to really work over BBC Discover, I'll do a quick example of that, and we'll fast forward through this because it just came to me. So what I basically just did was I opened every single string section within BBC Discover. So we have our violin 1 spiccatos, violin 2 spiccatos, violin 3 viola spiccatos, and so now if I can play them all at the exact same time because they're within this summing stack, and so we'll get an exact comparison of how this ensemble compares with Helix. So let's have a quick play. BBC Discover's ensemble, Helix's. Helix has more round robins, it has more dynamic layers, while BBC Discover, one round robin, well, one sample, and no dynamic layers. The only problem with Helix is it's the entire ensemble, and I actually prefer the space Helix is recorded in as well. It's a beautiful room. I believe, if we actually look at it, it's in... Oh, it doesn't tell us. It recorded it. Sunsets. Here it is. It's Teldec scoring stage, I believe, which is a beautiful scoring stage. And so that's that little comparison there between those two. But Helix, gorgeous, love it. And their sustains, of course, ensemble again. And we can have a look at how many round robins we have. I don't believe there are any. And dynamic layers, there are 3. Now we can... I can't really extend that envelope anymore, sadly, but I can do a little curve. Love it. Beautiful, amazing. Now, don't forget to use your CC11. That's how I'm doing that. It makes all the difference. And you can use the expression as well, just for that added emphasis. But this really is a great introduction to the quality that Orchestral Tools produces. If I'm honest, it's absolutely stunning. So moving on from that, we did look at BBC Discover. I will have a quick little play on the Violin 1 patch. For those of you familiar with my videos, I talk about this product a lot and really put it up against everything because people can misinterpret this as the best thing out there that's free, when actually when you put it up against other things, is it though? Not to diss Spitfire Audio, I absolutely love them, and their BBC and the pro version of this is what I use as my bread and butter, so. Hats off to them for some of the stuff they produce. And of course, we have a wider range. We have some tremolos, pizzicatos. So really, you can go between this and the Labs. Want something more intimate? Maybe think about Labs. Want something a bit more orchestral without space? Spizzicatos. Spiccatos, sorry. And of course longs. A completely different character to Helix. If we go back to Helix and actually have a look. I actually think Helix is slightly smoother and more playable actually there. And of course this goes for all the instruments. We're not going to go into that. Look at my other videos if you want that, or just download it and play around with it. We're just trying to fly through these. Now, last of all, Logic. We're going to talk about Logic Zone and have a little listen, and then we'll flick between them, have a list, which is our favorite and best out of these, and which ones I would recommend. So, of course, with Logic Zone, look how many more articulations we have. We have a lot more going for us here. What ones are you actually going to use is a whole different other question. I know a lot of people go, well, more articulations, it's better. But what ones do you actually use? And if I'm honest, the ones I use the most, of course, sustains, staccatos. I veer more towards the spiccatos, if I'm honest, than the staccatos. I find I like that sharper sound. Pizzicato, I use a lot. Tremolo for emphasis, but I don't use it as much as you'd think you'd use it. And call like now. All these other bits, accented, crescendo, am I going to use it? Sometimes I use trills, not often. Full shorts and full longs, I'm never going to really use. Come on. Like for details, those are like little details. Bread and butter. Bread and butter is spiccato, staccato, sustains, pizzicato, carlagno, and maybe tremolo, if I'm honest. Sorry if I just deafened you. I forget how sensitive this one is. I don't like the space as much, but we've been listening to some beautifully recorded samples with Orchestral Tools and Orchestral Tools and Spitfire Audio, where they are recorded in a beautiful space, while these are close mic'd and then stuck a reverb on it. But they are really nice. And let's actually turn our CC on. But now when we put that side by side with the actual Logic side by side, so we actually have the sampler version, and they technically have a legato apparently. Hey, this is what I was talking about, my bread and butter, really. There you go, your bread and butter. So not as sharp as your shorts over here. More staccato than spiccato, but that's what it said. Definitely sitting a little bit further back. Let's flick between the pizzicatos and really just give that side-by-side comparison within Logic itself. Definitely sounds like an ensemble. That closer sound, I really like that kind of pluck, that rawness. You get that from that one. Mapping, let's look at round robins. Not really seeing new. They definitely have two dynamic layers there. Legato. It's not a legato patch though, is it? It's a sustain patch. How do I make this? Am I going to have to use expression, aren't I? In comparison, so it's a bigger sound than your studio, but you expect that, if I'm honest, because studio normally entails so Yeah, that's what I would say between those two. It really is smaller, closer ensemble, bigger, further away between those two, which gives you that choice. Which actually a better comparison would probably be between the sampler and BBC Discover. Let's select the longs. And then play that side by side with that one. I'm going to add a bit more release to that. And compare it. I think there's an even tighter difference between those two, actually, between the Logic Samplers version and BBC Discover. But that's all I'm going to go into in this video. We've had a quick tinker, had a look at them all. Which has been your favorite? Personally, the pairs that, at least to me, go together. My favorite overall, I believe, Helix by Orchestral Tools, even simply because it's staccato, sustains. I know it's an ensemble patch, but with your round robins and dynamic layers, there's so much you can do with that. If that's what you want, a nice big orchestral sort of sound, that's where I would go. So that's my number one. At number two, Labs. Especially for that close, intimate sort of sound. You can really go between strings 1 and strings 2 for your long, shorts and ensemble. That's your kind of bread and butter solo sort of instruments. Combining that with your bigger, Helix sort of stuff. And then, of course, decent sampler for your weird and wacky stuff. It's not quite traditional, and sometimes you probably can't use them how you want to. But then BBC Discover, I don't know, we put that up against, I'm noticing less of a difference, especially when I stick Logic's own sampler in there and mess around. I'm almost feeling Logic's own is easier to play. But the advantage of Discover is we do have those individual instruments, but same with Logic. It really is a toss-up. They're all free, and at the end of the day, it's going to be down to you. Which one works better for your music? But my recommendations: number one, Helix, love it, and then Labs, that's strings 1 and strings 2. There's lots of different texture stuff as well, and stuff you can mess around with them. But for your bread and butter, those three I would recommend. Everything else, well, what sound are you going for? What are you composing? What sort of music are you writing? For some situations, decent sampler may be great. For others, absolutely terrible. If you want a traditional epic orchestral score, are you really going to be wanting a slinky violin? No. Well, maybe you do. Give it a try. Do what you want at the end of the day. But I hope this video has been helpful. I hope you've enjoyed it. Links in the description for all these different instruments. They're all free. Have some fun, experiment. There's a lot of sounds we haven't looked at simply because of time. And you don't want to be sitting there watching me go through every single one of these when you could be having that fun yourself. So I'll end the video there. Again, like, subscribe. Thank you for all the support of those who have actually made it to the end of this video. If you have, leave a like. I appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.